Story 1, The Mirror Trucker. The semi in my rearview mirror had been matching my speed for 47 miles, and when I finally got a good look at the driver, I saw my own face staring back. Not similar, not a look-alike. My exact face down to the scar above my left eyebrow from a windshield crack in 2009. Same gray stubble, same weathered crow's feet, even the same coffee stain on the collar of my flannel shirt. The impossible trucker behind me smiled, and I felt my own lips curve upward without my permission. My name is Robert Hayes, 42 years old. Been running freight across the western states since I was 23. I know every truck stop between Sacramento and Salt Lake City, every way station, every speed trap. I know the difference between a meth head hitching a ride and a stranded college kid. I know when my rig needs maintenance by the feel of the steering wheel in my hands. What I don't know is how the hell I ended up being followed by myself on Nevada State Route 375, the so-called extraterrestrial highway, at 3:15 in the morning on March 14th, 2023. The CB radio crackled. My voice came through the speaker. "You're looking nervous up there, Bobby," hands shaking on that wheel. I grabbed the radio, thumb hovering over the talk button. I didn't press it. The trucker behind me, the thing wearing my face, tilted his head in my mirror, watching me not respond. His grin widened until it split past where human smiles should end, revealing too many teeth. Far too many. "Route 375, I muttered, gripping the wheel. The highway stretched ahead like a black ribbon through absolute darkness. No other vehicles, no lights except my headlights and the twin beams behind me. The desert on either side was a void. I'd driven this route maybe 30 times in my career, usually hauling machine parts to a facility outside Rachel. Strange area. Lots of conspiracy nuts talking about Area 51 and alien abductions. I'd always laughed it off. Not laughing now. The CB crackled again. "Remember when Dad died, Bobby? Remember what you didn't say at his bedside? I remember. I am you. I remember everything." My foot pressed harder on the accelerator. The speedometer climbed, 75, 80, 85. The semi behind me accelerated perfectly in sync, maintaining the exact same distance. Quarter mile back, no closer, no farther. The cargo I was hauling shifted slightly in the trailer. Nothing major, but I felt it through the cabin. 12 pallets of electronics. Standard load. Everything had been normal until I'd passed mile marker 47, right around the town of Rachel. That's when I'd first noticed the headlights behind me. That's when the radio started. "You can't outrun yourself," my voice said through the CB. "Been trying to do that your whole life, haven't you? Running cross-country routes, never staying home, never dealing with anything." I switched off the CB. The silence lasted maybe 10 seconds before my radio turned itself back on with a click I could hear from across the cabin. "Rude, Bobby, we're having a conversation." I looked at the radio. The knob was in the off position. Static hissed from the speaker anyway. My eyes went back to the mirror. The other truck was closer now. Not by much, but definitely closer. Maybe an eighth of a mile. It hadn't felt like it closed the distance. It had just relocated. One moment, quarter mile back, blink, eighth of a mile back. The desert darkness outside seemed to press against my windows. No stars visible despite the clear night I'd been driving under 20 minutes ago, just blackness. My headlights illuminated maybe 50 feet of road ahead before the darkness swallowed everything else. In that bubble of light, the asphalt looked wrong. Too smooth. Too perfect. Like a photograph of a road rather than an actual road. "Tell you what," my voice said conversationally. "Let's make this interesting. Every time you look in your mirror, I'll be closer. Don't look and maybe I'll stay back here, but you will look. You can't help it. Humans always look." I forced my eyes forward, focused on the road ahead. The white lines, the empty highway, my heartbeat hammered in my ears. Sweat dripped down my temples despite the cold air blowing from the vents. "Don't look, don't look, don't look." I lasted maybe 40 seconds before my eyes flicked up to the rearview mirror. The other truck's grill filled my entire view. It was maybe 10 feet behind my trailer now, close enough that I could see the thing driving it clearly, still wearing my face, still smiling that too-wide smile. But now I could see that its eyes were wrong. The pupils were horizontal slits like a goat's eyes, and there was something moving under the skin of its face, rippling and writhing like worms crawling through flesh. I jerked the wheel right, trying to veer off the highway. Nothing happened. The steering wheel spun uselessly in my hands, completely disconnect. Ed from the wheels. The truck continued rolling straight down Route 375 at 85 miles per hour. I slammed the brake pedal. It went to the floor with no resistance, no slowing, no response. "You're not driving anymore, Bobby," my voice said. "You haven't been driving since mile marker 47. You just thought you were." The cabin temperature dropped. My breath misted in front of my face. Frost spread across the inside of the windshield in crystalline patterns, growing from the edges inward. Within seconds, I could barely see the road through the ice. I punched the windshield. Pain exploded through my knuckles, but the frost didn't crack. It felt solid as steel. I looked down at my hand and saw blood on my knuckles from split skin. Real blood, real pain. This wasn't a dream. The CB crackled with laughter. My laughter, but layered and echoing. Multiple voices all using my own voice, laughing in harmony. "Figured it out yet?" one of my voices asked. "He's slow," another voice said, still mine but pitched higher. "Always was," a third voice added, deeper and gravelly. I spun in my seat to look through the small window into the trailer. The cargo was gone. Instead, the entire trailer was filled with people. Dozens of them, maybe 100, all crammed in there, standing shoulder to shoulder, all staring at me through the window, all wearing my face. Men, women, children, different bodies, same face, my face. All those horizontal goat pupil eyes watching me, all those too wide smiles. "Jesus Christ," I whispered. The frost on the windshield had spread to cover it completely now. I couldn't see the road at all, but I could feel the truck still moving, still rolling forward at high speed through the darkness. The steering wheel was freezing cold under my palms, metal cold, cold enough to stick to skin. I tried to let go. My palms wouldn't release. The skin was frozen to the wheel. When I pulled, I felt the skin start to tear, but I still couldn't free my hands. "We've been waiting for you," the voices said in unison from the CB. "Every version of you that could have been, every choice you didn't make, every life you didn't live, we're all here, and we're all so very hungry." The window behind me shattered. Cold air rushed in. Hands, my hands, dozens of them, reached through the opening, grabbing at my shoulders, my neck, my hair, fingers digging into my flesh, pulling me backward toward the trailer full of alternate selves. I screamed and thrashed, but my hands were still frozen to the wheel. The skin finally tore with a wet ripping sound, and I came free, leaving bloody handprints on the frozen steering wheel. The hands dragged me through the window. I caught a glimpse of the speedometer as I was pulled through, 95 miles per hour. I landed hard on the trailer floor. The cargo space was much larger than it should have been, impossibly large, stretching back into darkness far beyond where the trailer's actual walls should end. The versions of me surrounded me, pressing in close. Their breath smelled like diesel and decay. "Time to decide, Bobby," they said in chorus. "Which one of us gets to be real?" They descended on me. I felt teeth, so many teeth, and then there was just pain and darkness and the sensation of being unmade, piece by piece, thought by thought, memory by memory. When I woke up, I was in my truck, hands on the wheel, no blood, no torn skin. The windshield was clear, the heater was running normally, the CB was off. I checked the mirror, empty road behind me. Dawn was breaking over the desert, painting the sky in oranges and pinks. The GPS said I was at mile marker 112 on Route 375. I'd somehow jumped forward 65 miles with no memory of driving them. I pulled over at the next truck stop and checked the trailer. All 12 pallets of electronics, everything normal, nothing wrong. But when I looked at my hands, really looked at them, I noticed something. The scar I'd had on my right thumb from a knife slip in 2015 was gone. Just smooth skin where the scar tissue had been for 8 years. I've checked myself in mirrors obsessively since that night, looking for changes, looking for signs that I'm not who I'm supposed to be. Sometimes I catch myself smiling when I'm not trying to smile. Sometimes my reflection moves just a fraction of a second too slow. And sometimes, late at night on empty highways, I see semis in my rearview mirror and wonder if the driver looking back at me sees his own face where mine should be. I don't drive Route 375 anymore. Haven't touched a load going through Nevada since. But 3 months ago, I was hauling through Wyoming on I-80, and the CB crackled to life even though it was switched off. "Hello, Bobby," my voice said. "Miss me?" I looked in the mirror, empty road behind me. But I could feel it back there, waiting, following, getting closer. Story 2, the breathing cargo. The pallets in my trailer had started breathing 40 minutes ago, and I'd hear it through the cabin wall, a slow, wet, rhythmic sound like asthmatic lungs fighting for air. I'd pulled over twice to check, but every time I opened those doors, the cargo looked exactly like it should. 53 identical wooden crates marked Industrial PARTS Fragile, each one sealed and still. The moment I closed the doors and climbed back in the cab, the breathing resumed. Patricia Sullivan, 38 years old, independent contractor out of Portland, Oregon. I've been running my own rig for 6 years now, hauling whatever pays enough to cover fuel and maintenance. I don't ask many questions about cargo. That's how you stay employed in this business. But I was starting to regret that policy as I drove south on Highway 101 through Northern California at 11:30 on a foggy October night, listening to something in my trailer breathe. The pickup had been normal enough. Warehouse outside Eureka, address confirmed through the broker app. The cargo broker's instructions were simple: pick up at 8 p.m., deliver to a facility in Big Sur by 6 a.m. No stops. No opening the cargo. Payment would be triple my usual rate. I'd almost turned it down. Triple rate meant something weird was involved, but my transmission had been slipping lately and I needed the cash. Now I was regretting every part of this decision. The breathing was getting louder, deeper. I could hear it clearly over the engine noise now, transmitted through the metal and into the cabin. It sounded large. Whatever was making that sound had significant lung capacity. The rhythm was wrong, too slow. A human breath cycle is maybe 4 seconds. This thing was taking 8-second inhalations, 10-second exhalations. I grabbed my phone to call the broker. No signal. Not unusual on this stretch of coast, but the timing was suspicious. The last time I'd had reception was 20 miles back, right before the fog rolled in. This wasn't normal California coastal fog, either. This was thick, oppressive, the kind that turned my headlights into useless, diffused glows. I could barely see 30 feet ahead. The breathing changed, became faster, excited almost, like whatever was back there knew I was paying attention to it. My CB radio hissed static, then a voice crackled through, male, distorted, speaking in a language I didn't recognize. Not Spanish or any European language, something older. The syllables felt wrong in my ears, like they were sounds human throats weren't designed to make. The voice stopped. The breathing stopped with it. For maybe 10 seconds, there was only the sound of my engine and the fog pressing against the windows. Then something hit the wall behind my seat, hard. The impact shook the entire cabin. I jerked the wheel, nearly running off the road. My heart was trying to punch through my ribcage. Another hit, then another, rhythmic, like something massive was throwing itself against the trailer wall from the inside. The metal groaned with each impact. I could see the wall flexing slightly with each hit, bowing inward an inch or two before springing back. "Jesus, Jesus, Jesus," I muttered, pressing the accelerator. The engine roared, 50 miles per hour, 60. The impacts kept coming, steady and relentless. Then they stopped. I held my breath, waiting. The fog seemed to thicken impossibly. I couldn't see the road at all now. I was driving blind, guided only by the GPS and the feel of asphalt under my wheels. The temperature dropped. I could see my breath misting in the cabin air. The heater was still running, but it wasn't making any difference. Something appeared in the fog ahead, a figure standing in the middle of the road. I slammed the brakes. The rig shuddered and skidded, air brakes screaming. I stopped maybe 15 feet from the figure. It was a man, naked, standing perfectly still with his arms at his sides. His skin was pale, almost luminescent in the fog. As I stared, trying to process what I was seeing, the man's head tilted 90 degrees to the side with a wet crack of breaking vertebrae. His mouth opened, too wide, impossibly wide, unhinging like a snake's jaw. He screamed. Not a human scream. This was something animal and mechanical at once, a sound that made my teeth ache and my vision blur. The windshield cracked, a single line spreading from corner to corner. The scream went on, lasting at least 30 seconds without pause for breath. Then he collapsed, just folded in on himself like a puppet with cut strings and lay motionless on the road. I sat frozen, hands welded to the steering wheel. The fog swirled around the body. When it cleared slightly, the body was gone, just empty asphalt. The CB crackled. "You should not have stopped," a woman's voice said in perfect English. "They can reach you when you stop." "Who is this?" I grabbed the radio. "What the hell is in my trailer?" "You know what you're carrying, Patricia Sullivan. You knew when you accepted the payment. Your bank account received the deposit at 8:07 p.m. $63,000. You saw the amount and you didn't ask questions." She was right. The payment was absurd for a simple overnight haul. I'd known something was wrong. I'd taken the money anyway. "What is it?" I asked. "What am I hauling?" "Pieces," the woman said. 53 pieces of something that should never have been divided. You're bringing it home. You're helping it reassemble." The breathing started again, but now it wasn't coming from the trailer. It was coming from all around me, from the fog itself. The air outside was breathing, expanding, and contracting. The fog pressed against the windows with each exhalation, then pulled back with each inhalation. I threw the truck into gear and accelerated. The figure appeared in the road again, closer this time. I didn't brake. I drove straight through it. There was no impact. The figure dissolved into fog as I passed through the space where it had been standing. More figures appeared. Dozens of them, all naked, all with their heads tilted at wrong angles, all standing motionless in the fog. I drove through them all. None were solid. But I could feel them somehow, a cold that had nothing to do with temperature, passing through the cabin each time I went through one. The impacts against the trailer wall resumed. Harder now, more frantic. The metal was screaming. I looked in my side mirror and saw something impossible. The trailer was bulging, not just flexing, actually expanding outward like a balloon being inflated. The rectangular cargo trailer was becoming round, the metal stretching and warping. A seam split along the side, metal tearing like fabric. Something pink and wet pushed through the gap. It looked like flesh, like muscle tissue. It writhed and pulsed, growing outward, expanding into the fog. I pressed the accelerator to the floor. 70 miles per hour through fog so thick I couldn't see anything. I was driving on pure faith now, trusting that the road continued straight, that there were no curves coming up, that I wouldn't drive off a cliff into the Pacific Ocean. The CB woman spoke again. "It's almost complete. You're 3 miles from the facility. You'll make it. You'll deliver the cargo, and when those doors open, it will emerge fully formed. You'll see what you helped birth." "I didn't know," I shouted at the radio. "I didn't fucking know." "But you suspected, and you took the money. That makes you complicit. That makes you part of it." The trailer was shaking violently now. I could hear more seams tearing, more metal screaming. The breathing was deafening, thunderous, each exhalation shaking the entire rig. Something was coming out back there. Something was being born. Lights appeared through the fog. The facility, a massive concrete structure built into the hillside, floodlights illuminating a loading dock. 2 figures stood by the dock, wearing white hazmat suits. They waved me forward, directing me to back up to the dock. I wanted to drive past, just keep going, but my foot pressed the brake without my permission. My hands turned the wheel, backing the trailer up to the dock with perfect precision. The figures moved to the trailer doors. I watched in my mirror as they unlocked and opened them. I expected screaming, chaos, horror erupting from the trailer. Instead, there was silence. The breathing stopped. The figures in hazmat suits stood at the open doors, looking inside. They didn't react, didn't run, just stood there observing. One of them walked to my window and knocked. I rolled it down with shaking hands. "Payment has been confirmed," he said. His voice was muffled by the hazmat suit. "Thank you for your service." "What was it?" I asked. "What did I just bring you?" "The future," he said. "Or the past, or both. Time is complicated when you're dealing with things that exist outside it." He handed me a tablet, a release form. I signed it with numb fingers. The man walked away. The trailer doors closed. The hazmat figures disappeared into the facility. The fog began to lift. I drove away in a daze. Found a truck stop 20 miles south and parked. Sat in my cabin for 3 hours, staring at nothing, listening to my own breathing and wondering what I'd helped bring into the world. My bank account showed the $63,000. I tried to return it. The account number was no longer valid. The broker app showed no record of the job, no pickup address, no delivery address, no company name, like the whole thing never existed. But my trailer was different. The metal on the inside was scorched, blackened in patterns that looked almost like symbols. And when I ran my hand over the marks, they were warm to the touch. Body temperature warm, living warm. I still do hauling, still take jobs through brokers, but now I ask questions. I turn down anything that pays too much. And I never ever drive Highway 101 through Northern California at night. 3 weeks ago, I saw a news report. Something had emerged from the ocean near Big Sur. Something massive and ancient, pulled from the deep by tidal forces that shouldn't have existed. Scientists couldn't explain it. They still can't. But I know I brought it the pieces it needed. I helped it become whole. And sometimes, late at night, I swear I can still hear it breathing. Story 3, The Loop. The same hitchhiker had been standing at mile marker 127 for the past 4 hours, and Marcus Chen was starting to lose his mind. Same denim jacket. Same cardboard sign reading anywhere but here. Same tired slouch. Marcus had passed him at midnight, then again at 12:45, then 1:30, then 2:15. Now it was 3 a.m. on December 3rd, 2022, and there he was again, thumb out, illuminated in Marcus's headlights for the 5th time. Marcus slammed the brakes. The Peterbilt shuddered to a stop 30 feet past the hitchhiker. He threw it in park, killed the engine, and climbed out. His breath misted in the freezing Montana air. The highway was empty in both directions, no vehicles, no lights, nothing but darkness and scattered snowflakes. He walked back to where the hitchhiker should have been standing. Empty roadside, just gravel and frozen weeds. Marcus looked at the mile marker, 127. He looked at his watch, 3:02 a.m. He'd definitely stopped. He was definitely standing here, but the hitchhiker was gone. He turned back toward his truck. The hitchhiker was standing next to the driver's door. "You finally stopped," the man said. He looked about 60, weathered face, gray beard. "Been watching you drive past, same truck, same confused expression. You don't remember me, do you?" "Get away from my rig," Marcus said. "Check your logbook," the man said. "Check your GPS history, see what time you left Billings." Marcus climbed into the cab, keeping his eyes on the hitchhiker. He grabbed his electronic logbook tablet. Departure from Billings, 11:15 p.m. Expected arrival in Missoula, 5:30 a.m. Straight shot on I-90. Simple route he'd driven maybe 50 times. He checked the GPS history. His route showed him leaving Billings. Then his trail became a circle. A perfect circle connecting 4 points. Mile marker 115, mile marker 138, mile marker 115, mile marker 138. Over and over. The GPS said he'd been driving for 3 hours and 47 minutes, but the trail showed him going nowhere, just looping endlessly between 2 points. "That's not possible," Marcus whispered. "You've passed me 16 times now," the hitchhiker said from outside the window. "I counted. You only remember 5. Your short-term memory is degrading. Side effect of the loop. You stay in it long enough, you'll forget everything. Forget your name, forget how to drive. Eventually, forget how to breathe." Marcus started the engine. The hitchhiker didn't move. Marcus put the truck in gear and accelerated. In his mirror, he watched the man grow smaller, then disappear into darkness. Mile marker 128, 129, 130. The highway stretched ahead, identical in every direction. Snow was falling harder now, starting to accumulate on the road. His headlights caught swirling flakes and nothing else. No other vehicles. Where was everyone? Mile marker 135, 136, 137, 138. The road curved slightly right. Marcus followed it. The mile markers started counting down. 137, 136, 135. "No," he muttered. "No, no, no." Mile marker 127. The hitchhiker was standing there, thumb out, same position as before. Marcus kept driving, didn't stop. He watched the hitchhiker disappear behind him. Mile marker 120, 119, 118. The road curved right again. The markers started going back up. 119, 120, 121. He grabbed his phone, no signal. He tried calling anyway, nothing. The screen showed the time, 3:14 a.m. He'd been driving since 11:15, that was 4 hours, but it felt longer, much longer. How many times had he passed that hitchhiker? 16 times, the man said. Marcus only remembered 5. He tried to remember leaving Billings. The details were fuzzy. He'd loaded the cargo. What cargo? What was he hauling? He looked at his tablet. The load description was blank. The trailer weight sensors showed he was carrying something, 48,000 pounds, but there was no description of what. Marcus pulled over. He grabbed his flashlight and climbed out, walked back to the trailer. The padlock was in place. He unlocked it and opened the doors. Empty, completely empty. No cargo, no pallets, nothing. But the weight sensor said 48,000 pounds. He was hauling something. The trailer's suspension was compressed. He could see it sagging under load, but there was nothing inside. He climbed into the empty trailer. The metal floor was cold under his boots. He walked to the front wall, shining his flashlight around. Nothing. He turned to leave. The doors slammed shut. Marcus ran to them, but there was no interior release. He was locked in. He pounded on the metal. Hey, hell. Someone. The trailer lurched. The truck was moving. Someone was driving his truck. He braced himself against the wall as the trailer accelerated. Through the thin walls, he could hear the engine, his Peterbilt's distinctive sound. Someone had stolen his truck with him locked inside his own trailer. The motion changed. The truck was turning, right turn, then another right turn, and another. The truck was driving in circles. Marcus's phone still had a charge. He used the flashlight app. The trailer was definitely empty. But as he swept the light across the floor, he noticed something. Scratches. Dozens of scratches in the metal clustered near the doors. They looked like they'd been made by fingernails, desperate scratching, someone trying to get out. No, lots of someone's. The scratches overlapped, varying depths, varying ages. Some looked fresh. Others were old, oxidized. He found words scratched into the metal. Got to stop driving. Another one, can't remember my name. Another, day 4 still looping. Day 4, Marcus had been on this route for 4 hours, not 4 days. The truck stopped. Marcus waited, breathing hard. The doors didn't open. Minutes passed. 5, 10. The truck started moving again. Same pattern, turning, driving, turning, looping. He tried his phone again. Still no signal. The time now showed 3:58 a.m. That wasn't right. He'd been locked in here for at least 40 minutes. It should be past 4. He checked again 5 minutes later. 3:59 a.m. Again 5 minutes after that. 3:59 a.m. Time had stopped moving forward. Marcus sank to the floor. His mind was racing, trying to find rational explanations. Some kind of prank. Carbon monoxide poisoning causing hallucinations. A breakdown, exhaustion, anything that made sense. The truck stopped again. This time the doors opened. The hitchhiker stood there, silhouetted against Marcus's headlights. "You're in the sleeper," the man said. "You've been in the sleeper since mile marker 115. You fell asleep at the wheel. Your truck is currently rolling off the road at 68 miles per hour. You have about 4 seconds before impact." Marcus blinked. He was in his sleeper cabin, not the trailer, the sleeper. He was lying on the narrow bed, staring at the ceiling. His truck was moving. No one was driving. He lunged for the driver's seat. Through the windshield, he saw the road veering right while his truck went straight. He was heading for the guardrail at the edge of a cliff. Headlights swept over empty air beyond the barrier. He grabbed the wheel and yanked it right. The truck responded, swinging back toward the road. Tires screamed. The trailer swung wide, fishtailing. Marcus fought the wheel, correcting, overcorrecting, finally straightening out. He was on the road, still moving, heart hammering. He slammed the brakes and came to a stop. The mile marker outside read, 127. The hitchhiker was standing there, thumb out. Marcus checked his watch, 3:02 a.m. The exact time he'd stopped before, or thought he'd stopped, or dreamed he'd stopped. He checked his logbook. Departure from Billings, 11:15 p.m. GPS showed him at mile marker 127. Travel time, 3 hours 47 minutes. Normal, no loop, no circles. But his hands were shaking. His shirt was soaked with sweat. That hadn't been a normal dream. It had been too detailed, too real. The hitchhiker knocked on his window. Marcus jumped. The man pointed at the sleeper cabin. Marcus turned to look. There was someone in the sleeper, someone lying in the bed. Marcus could see their boots, work boots. Same brand Marcus wore, same scuff marks on the toes. He climbed back there. The person in the bed was Marcus Chen, exact copy, sleeping peacefully. Marcus reached out to shake him awake, but his hand passed through the body like smoke. "You didn't wake up," the hitchhiker said from outside. "This is your fourth loop. You're stuck between asleep and awake. Your real body is still out there on the road. Crashed at mile marker 138. Happened 4 hours ago. What you're experiencing now is the last 4 hours replaying, over and over, your dying brain trying to find the moment where you can change things." Marcus looked at the hitchhiker. "I don't believe you." "Check the news," the man said. "Search for accidents on I-90 tonight." Marcus grabbed his phone. Finally had signal. He searched. The top result was from 2 hours ago. Fatal accident on I-90 NEAR mile marker 138. Driver identified as Marcus Chen, age 34. Killed instantly when his truck left the road and plunged into a ravine. No other vehicles involved. Police suspect driver fell asleep. The article had photos, his truck, his license plate, his cargo manifest, all correct. "You're dead," the hitchhiker said. "You've been dead since 11:58 p.m. What you're experiencing now is the last electrical impulses in your brain firing randomly, creating false memories. I'm not real. The loop I isn't real, but your consciousness interprets it as real because that's all it knows how to do." Marcus stared at the article, at his own face in the driver's license photo they'd used. At the timestamp, 11:58 p.m., about 4 hours ago. "So what now?" Marcus asked. "I just loop forever." "Until your brain finally stops," the hitchhiker said. "Could be minutes, could be hours, time doesn't work the same in here. But eventually you'll fade, forget things, lose coherence, and then nothing." Marcus climbed back into the driver's seat, started the engine. The hitchhiker was still standing outside. "You might want to stay still," the man said. "Moving just burns through your remaining time faster." Marcus put the truck in gear. "I'd rather keep driving." He accelerated. Mile marker 128, 129, 130. The road stretched ahead. He'd drive this loop as many times as it took. He'd find a way out. He had to. Mile marker 138. The road curved right. Mile marker 137, 136, 135. Mile marker 127. The hitchhiker was there. Marcus kept driving, the same stretch of highway, the same mile markers, the same darkness. But he refused to stop, refused to accept this. He'd drive until there was nothing left. Somewhere maybe his real body was gone. But this version, this consciousness would keep moving, keep trying, keep looping. Mile marker 127. Again, always again, forever. Story 4, The Voice in the CB. The voice on Channel 19 told Jennifer Walsh exactly when the deer would jump into the road. 3 seconds, blue Peterbilt, hard brake now. And she slammed her brakes without thinking, and 2 seconds later a massive buck bounded across her lane exactly where she would have been. The voice had saved her life. That was 10 minutes ago. Now the voice was telling her things no one could possibly know, and Jennifer was starting to understand that saving her life might have been a mistake. She'd been running freight from Cheyenne to Denver for 8 years. Same route, 3 times a week. I-25 south, straight shot, easy money. She knew every mile of this highway. Knew the weather patterns, the traffic flows, the speed traps. What she didn't know was who the hell was talking to her on the CB with perfect predictions of the future. "Next exit, Jennifer," the voice said. Male, middle-aged, calm. "You need to take it. 3 vehicles are about to collide at mile marker 168. Multi-car pileup. You'll be trapped in it if you don't exit now." Jennifer looked at the GPS. Mile marker 165. She'd reach 168 in about 2 minutes. Traffic was normal light for this time of night, just after midnight on January 19th, 2023. No signs of danger ahead. "Who is this?" she asked into the CB. "How do you know my name?" "Exit now. You have 30 seconds to make the turn safely." Jennifer's hands tightened on the wheel. This was insane. She should ignore it. But the voice had been right about the deer. Precisely, impossibly right. She took the exit. Her trailer swung wide as she made the last-second turn. She rolled down the off-ramp, heart-pounding. In her mirror, she watched the highway, normal traffic. No pileup, no accident. "You're paranoid and this is stupid," she muttered. Then she saw it. A semi jackknifed in the center lane, right around mile marker 168, vehicles slamming into it. Brake lights flaring like emergency strobes, metal shrieking. The pileup unfolded exactly as predicted, maybe 15 seconds after she'd exited. Jennifer pulled over at the bottom of the ramp, hands shaking. "How did you know?" "Because I've watched it happen 47 times, the voice said. "You've died 47 times on this route, Jennifer, tonight. Different causes, different moments, but always dead. I'm trying to get you through alive." "That's not possible. I've never died. I'm alive right now." "You've never made it past mile marker 184. That's where it usually happens. Vehicle malfunction, heart attack. Another driver losing control. A meteor strike in one iteration that was unexpected, but always something. You always die at 184. Jennifer checked her mirrors, looked at her cargo manifest. She was hauling paper products, totally safe, nothing that could explode or spill. "I don't believe you. This is some sick prank." "Get back on the highway at the next entrance. Stay in the right lane. At mile marker 172, there's a retread tire in your lane. You won't see it until too late because of the curve. It'll shred your front passenger tire. You'll lose control." "How?" "Just trust me. Move to the left lane before 172. Jennifer followed the service road to the next entrance ramp. Got back on I-25. The pileup was behind her now, emergency vehicles arriving, lights flashing in the darkness. The voice had saved her from that. Mile marker 170. She stayed in the right lane, watching carefully. The voice had mentioned 172. She could prove this was nonsense by just staying in this lane and showing that there was no tire debris. Mile marker 171. The road C. Irved slightly left. Jennifer stayed right. Mile marker 172. There it was, a large chunk of shredded tire right in her lane, exactly where the curve would hide it until the last second. She jerked the wheel left, barely missing it. "Jesus Christ," she whispered. "You're learning," the voice said. "That's good. You'll need to trust me completely if we're going to get you past 184. "Who are you?" "Does it matter? I know everything that's going to happen for the next 30 miles. I've seen every variation, every possibility. You've trusted me twice now and you're still alive. Keep trusting me." Jennifer's mouth was dry. "How are you doing this?" Mile marker 176, there's a wrong-way driver. They'll enter the highway in 90 seconds. Move to the far left lane. Jennifer changed lanes. Her mind was screaming that this was impossible, that she should pull over and call the police, that something was deeply wrong. But her hands kept following the voice's instructions. 90 seconds later, she saw headlights in the right lane, going north in the southbound lanes. A sedan, driving slowly, the driver clearly confused. Jennifer passed safely in the left lane, watching the wrong-way driver recede in her mirror. "How many times have I hit that car?" she asked. 11 times. You survived 3 of those crashes, died from injuries later. The other 8 were instant. Jennifer's stomach turned. "This isn't real. This is some kind of breakdown. I'm hallucinating." "You're not. At mile marker 180, you're going to see a green SUV pulled over on the shoulder. Hazard lights on. A woman will be standing next to it. You'll think about stopping to help. Don't. She's fine. If you stop, you'll be rear-ended by a drunk driver in 45 seconds. "How can you possibly know that?" "Because I've watched it happen. I've watched you die 47 times, Jennifer. 47 different nights. Same route. Always between markers 168 and 184. I've been trying to save you each time. This is the first time you've made it past 176. Mile marker 178. 179. The green SUV appeared on the shoulder. A woman stood next to it, phone to her ear. Jennifer's instinct was to help. She started to slow. "Don't stop," the voice said firmly. Jennifer accelerated past. In her mirror, she saw headlights swerving, a pickup truck weaving across lanes. It nearly sideswiped the SUV before straightening out, if she'd been stopped there. "Okay," Jennifer said. "Okay, I believe you. What happens at 184? The CB was silent for a moment. Then, "I don't know." "What?" "You've never made it to 184. You've always died before then. I don't know what happens next. This is farther than we've ever gotten." Mile marker 182. Jennifer's hands were cramping from gripping the wheel. "So what do we do?" "We see what happens. Stay alert. Watch for anything unusual." Mile marker 183. The highway looked normal, light traffic, clear night, nothing unusual visible. "Who are you really?" Jennifer asked. Am I dead already? Is this some kind of afterlife?" "I'm you," the voice said. "Or I was you. I'm the version of you that died the first time. At mile marker 184, I've been stuck here watching you die over and over trying to change it. This is the closest we've come." Mile marker 184 appeared in her headlights. Jennifer held her breath. Nothing happened. She passed it, still alive, still driving. Mile marker 185. "We did it," Jennifer whispered. "I made it past." The voice said nothing, just static on the CB. "Hello," Jennifer grabbed the radio. "Are you still there?" Static, the channel was dead. Mile marker 186. 187. Jennifer drove in silence. The voice was gone. She'd made it past the death zone. She was going to survive. Mile marker 188. Her chest was tight, hard to breathe suddenly, pain in her left arm, sharp, radiating pain. "No," she gasped. "No, not now." Heart attack. The pain intensified. She could feel her heart stuttering, misfiring. She tried to steer toward the shoulder, but her arms weren't responding correctly. The truck drifted left. The CB crackled. "I'm sorry," the voice said. Her voice. She was hearing her own voice now. "This is where I died. This is where you die. We can't change it. We never could. 184 was never the problem. 188 is where it happens, always has been." Jennifer's vision was blurring. The truck was slowing, rolling to a stop in the left lane. Hazard lights automatically engaged. She tried to reach for her phone, couldn't move her arms. "You'll wake up at mile marker 165, her own voice said from the CB. "You'll hear me warn you about the deer. You'll think you're saving your life, but you're already dead. We're all already dead. We just keep replaying it, trying to change it, hoping this time will be different." The pain was overwhelming. Jennifer slumped against the steering wheel. Through dimming vision, she saw the mile marker, 188. Then darkness. Then she was driving. I-25 south, mile marker 165, night, traffic light, the CB. Crackled. 3 seconds, blue Peterbilt, hard brake now. A deer was about to jump into the road. Jennifer reached for the brake. And for just a moment, she remembered this had happened before. Story 5, the rest stop. The rest stop didn't exist on any map, but David Torres had just pulled into it at 3:42 a.m. on Interstate 40 in New Mexico, and now he couldn't find the exit. He de-circled the parking lot 4 times. Each loop brought him past the same empty picnic areas, same dark bathroom building, same flickering lamp posts. But the exit ramp he'd used to enter, the one that had been right there 20 minutes ago, was gone. David had been driving for 11 hours straight, Amarillo to Flagstaff, hauling furniture. He de-stopped because he was falling asleep, eyelids drooping, that dangerous micro-sleep feeling creeping in. The rest stop had appeared suddenly, sign illuminated, rest area 1-2 mile. He'd taken the exit gratefully. Now he was trapped, and he was starting to notice other things wrong. The bathroom building had no windows. The picnic tables were bolted down but had no benches. The vending machines were empty glass fronts revealing nothing inside, and there were no other vehicles. No cars, no trucks, nothing. Just his Kenworth sitting alone in a parking lot designed for maybe 50 vehicles. He pulled over and killed the engine, grabbed his flashlight. The silence was immediate and total, no highway noise from the interstate, even though it should be maybe 200 yards away. No wind, no insects, nothing. David climbed out. The air smelled wrong, metallic, like blood and rust. The temperature felt off too, not cold exactly, but absent, like the concept of temperature didn't apply here. He walked toward where the exit should be. The parking lot just ended in darkness. His flashlight beam hit the edge and stopped, absorbed by blackness that seemed solid. He picked up a rock and threw it into the dark. No sound of impact. The rock just vanished. "Hello," his voice didn't echo. The sound died immediately, suffocated. He turned back toward the bathroom building. A light was on inside now. He was certain it had been dark before. Yellowish light leaked around the door frame. David approached carefully. The door was propped open with a wooden wedge. Inside, the bathroom looked normal at first, sinks, urinals, stall doors, but the mirrors were missing, just bare wall where mirrors should be. And the stalls had no toilets inside, just empty space and drains in the floor. On the far wall, someone had written in what looked like dried blood, "Count the lights." David stepped back outside and looked at the parking lot lamp posts. Counted them. 17. He counted again to be sure. 17 flickering yellow lamps spaced around the lot. He walked the perimeter, counting more carefully. Still 17. But the lot felt bigger than before, like it had expanded while he was inside. The distance between his truck and the bathroom had increased. It should be maybe 50 yards, now looked more like 100. His CB radio crackled from inside the truck. Impossible, he'd turned everything off. He jogged back and grabbed the radio. "David Torres," a child's voice said. "You stopped at the wrong rest area." "Who is this? How do you know my name?" "Count the lights, David. Count them every 10 minutes. If the number changes, you're running out of time." "Time for what?" "To leave, to find the exit. It moves. Every hour the exit appears in a different location. You have to be looking at the right spot when it opens, or you'll miss it." David scanned the darkness surrounding the parking lot. "How do I know where to look?" "Count the lights. When a light goes out, the exit appears where that light was. You have 30 seconds to drive through it before it closes." "This is insane." "Count the lights, David. Right now, count them again." David stepped out and counted. 16 lamps. One had gone out. He ran toward where he thought that light had been, the southeast corner of the lot, but when he reached it, there was just darkness, no exit, no opening. "You were too slow," the child's voice said from his truck. "The exit was there for 30 seconds. Now it's gone, you'll have to wait for the next one." David slammed his fist against his trailer. "How long?" 53 minutes until the next light goes out. If you miss 3 exits, you're stuck here permanently. You've already missed one." "Why, what is this place?" "It's a rest stop. People rest here. They never leave. Look at your truck, David. Really look at it." David turned. His truck looked fine. Same blue Kenworth, same trailer, same. There were handprints on the trailer. Dozens of them. Hundreds, all over the sides, the doors, the roof. Handprints in dust or dirt or something darker. They hadn't been there before. He was certain they hadn't been there before. He approached slowly. The handprints weren't on the surface. They were under the paint somehow. Pressed from inside, like people in the trailer pushing against the walls. He could see individual fingerprints in each mark. "Check inside," the voice said. "No. You need to see. You need to understand what happens if you don't leave." David grabbed his keys, unlocked the trailer. The doors swung open. His cargo of furniture was gone. Instead, the trailer was packed with people, dozens of them, standing motionless, shoulder to shoulder, all facing the doors, all wearing trucker clothes, flannels, jeans, work boots, all with their eyes closed, all perfectly still. David stumbled backward. The people didn't move, didn't react. "They stopped here too," the child's voice said. They missed their exits, now they're part of it. They stand in trailers, they sit in cars, they rest. Forever. One of the figures opened its eyes, then another, then all of them, all staring at David. Their mouths opened in unison. Rest with us, stop driving, stay. David slammed the trailer doors shut, locked them. His hands were shaking so badly he could barely turn the key. He ran back to the cab and checked the time. 3:58 a.m. He'd been here 16 minutes. The child said 53 minutes until the next exit. He had to wait, had to be ready. He counted the lights again, still 16. He watched them carefully, waiting for one to go out. The flickering was hypnotic. His eyes were heavy. He'd been tired before, that's why he'd stopped. The exhaustion was still there, pulling at him. "Don't sleep," the child's voice said. "If you sleep here, you won't wake up. You'll walk into a trailer and join the others. That's how it works. The rest stop makes you rest. Forever." David pinched his arm, hard, slapped his face, anything to stay awake. He checked his phone, no signal, tried to start the truck and drive through the darkness anyway. The engine turned over, but the truck wouldn't move. Wheels spun but didn't grip, like he was driving on ice, but the pavement was dry. "You can't force it," the child said. "You have to find the exit." "Who are you?" David asked. "Why are you helping me?" "I'm not helping. I'm explaining the rules. Everyone gets the rules, doesn't mean they escape." 20 minutes passed. David drank coffee from his thermos, slapped himself to stay alert, counted the lights over and over, 16, always 16, waiting for one to go out. At 4:37, a lamp in the northwest corner went dark. David gunned the engine and drove toward it. The truck responded this time, wheels gripping. He accelerated across the parking lot, headlights sweeping the darkness. An opening appeared, a gap in the black, showing the entrance ramp leading back to the interstate. David aimed for it and accelerated, 20 feet away, 10 feet. The opening closed, darkness sealed it shut. David slammed the brakes. His truck stopped inches from the solid blackness. 28 seconds, the child said. "You were 3 seconds too slow, that's your second miss. One more and you're staying." David reversed, turned the truck around. "When's the next one?" 39 minutes. You should count the lights again." David counted, 15 lamps now. The parking lot was definitely bigger. The distances had expanded. His truck looked smaller, dwarfed by the massive empty lot. The bathroom building's light was still on. As David watched, the door opened. A figure stepped out. A trucker, male, heavyset, wearing a Peterbilt cap. He walked with mechanical precision toward the parking lot, stopped next to a space, stood there motionless. Another figure emerged, then another. 10 figures total, all truckers, all walking to empty parking spaces and standing there like waiting vehicles. They stared at nothing, mouths slightly open, eyes half-lidded. "Previous guests," the child said. "They're showing you what's coming." David watched in horror as the figures slowly collapsed, melting downward like wax. They didn't fall. They melted, their bodies losing cohesion, pooling on the asphalt. The pools spread and flattened until they were just oily stains on the pavement. "That's what happens when you can't leave," the child said. "You become part of the rest stop, eventually." David's heart was hammering. He checked the time, 30 minutes until the next exit. He had to make it, had to be faster, had to be ready. He positioned his truck facing outward, engine running, ready to accelerate the moment a light went out. He counted the lamps obsessively. 15, still 15. 20 minutes, his eyes were burning. The exhaustion was overwhelming. His head nodded forward, jerked back up. "Stay awake, David." 10 minutes, he pinched himself until he bled, bit his tongue, anything. At 5:16 a.m., a lamp at the south end went dark. David floored it. The truck roared forward. The opening appeared, blessed exit ramp, highway visible beyond. He aimed straight for it. 50 feet, 40, 30. A figure stepped into his path, one of the melted truckers. Reformed, standing in the way. David swerved and clipped it. The figure splattered like mud against his fender. The opening was right there, 20 feet. 10 feet. He drove through. The darkness tried to close around him, but his trailer was through. He was through. He was. Highway I-40, normal traffic, dawn light on the horizon. David's truck was rolling westbound on the interstate. Behind him, no exit ramp, no rest stop, just empty desert. He pulled over at the first legitimate rest area he found, walked around his truck. No damage, no splattered remains, no handprints on the trailer. He checked inside. His furniture cargo was intact. Normal. But on his driver's seat, he found something that hadn't been there before. A child's toy truck. Blue Kenworth just like his, and a note in childish handwriting. You missed 2. Most people miss 3. Drive safe. David threw the toy out the window, got back in his truck, drove straight through to Flagstaff without stopping. He still drives I-40, still hauls freight, but he never stops at rest areas anymore. Never. He'd rather risk falling asleep than risk resting. Because sometimes, late at night, he sees them. Rest areas that aren't on any map. Signs advertising exits that don't exist, and he keeps driving. Always keeps driving. Story 6, the cargo that spoke. The 27th pallet said, please, in a whisper so quiet that Angela Morrison almost missed it under the sound of her engine. She'd been hauling refrigerated cargo for 9 years, mostly pharmaceuticals, occasionally medical specimens, and she'd never heard anything from the back except the steady hum of the reefer unit. But at 2:37 a.m. on April 9, 2023, driving through rural Idaho on Route 95, she heard it clearly. Please, a human voice. Coming from her sealed, locked, refrigerated trailer. Angela grabbed the CB radio. Dispatch, this is Unit 47. Do we have any biological cargo that might be conscious? Static, then, -47. You're hauling medical research supplies, all inanimate. What's your situation? I thought I heard. She stopped. How did she explain this without sounding insane? Never mind, probably just the reefer unit acting up. Copy that. Let us know if you need maintenance. Angela switched off the radio, listened. Just engine noise and the refrigeration hum, nothing else. She'd been driving for 6 hours straight. Exhaustion was playing tricks, that's all. Please let me out. Angela swerved. The voice was louder this time, definitely coming from the trailer, definitely human, male, youngish, desperate. She pulled over. Idaho countryside at night was absolute darkness beyond her lights. No other vehicles visible in either direction. She sat gripping the wheel, trying to decide what to do. Check the cargo, call the police, keep driving. I'm so cold, the voice said. Please, it's so cold. The trailer was refrigerated at 34 degrees Fahrenheit. Cold enough to preserve medical supplies, not cold enough to freeze them. If someone was in there. Angela grabbed her flashlight and climbed out, walked to the rear of the trailer. The seal was intact, the numbered tag that confirmed no one had opened the doors since loading. She checked her manifest. 27 pallets of medical research equipment. Loaded at a facility in Seattle, bound for Boise. Nothing unusual, standard cargo. She unlocked the doors, broke the seal. Cold air rolled out, misting in the warmer night. She shined her flashlight inside. 27 pallets, all shrink-wrapped, all labeled with codes she couldn't read. Everything looked normal. She climbed into the trailer, her breath misted. Temperature gauge inside confirmed 34 degrees. Hello, she called. Is someone in here? Silence, just the hum of refrigeration. Angela checked behind the pallets. Nothing. The voice had been so clear, so desperate, but there was no one here. She climbed out, locked up, got back in the cab. Sat there trying to rationalize what she'd heard. Audio hallucination from exhaustion, some weird acoustic effect with the reefer unit. Anything logical. Thank you for checking, the voice said. But I'm not where you can see me. I'm inside pallet 27. Angela's blood went cold. What? The pallet, I'm inside it. They put me in here, please let me out. That's not possible. The pallets are sealed. I know, I've been in here for 8 hours. Since Seattle, it's so cold. I can't feel my fingers anymore, please. Angela grabbed her phone, started to call the police. Stopped. What would she tell them? A voice is coming from my cargo. They'd think she was having a breakdown, but if someone really was trapped in there. She went back to the trailer. Found pallet 27, the one at the very back, closest to the refrigeration unit. It was shrink-wrapped like all the others, plastic film tied around boxes marked medical research fragile. She couldn't see without tearing the wrap. "I'm going to cut the wrap," she said. "Can you hear me?" "Yes, please hurry. I think I have hypothermia. Everything's numb." Angela used her box cutter to slice through the plastic, peeled it away. The pallet contained 6 large plastic containers sealed with locking lids, medical coolers, each about 3 feet long, 2 feet wide, 2 feet deep, large enough to hold. Large enough to hold a person if they were folded up. "Which container?" Angela asked. "Top middle, the white one. The lid code is 7733. Angela found the white container. The lid had an electronic keypad lock. She punched in 7733. The lock clicked open. She lifted the lid. Inside was medical equipment. Sensors, wires, monitoring devices. No person, no body, nothing living. "Where are you?" Angela demanded. "You're looking at me," the voice said. "I'm right there, can't you see me?" Angela stared at the equipment. "There's nothing here but machines." "The machines are me, or what's left of me. They took my body apart. They're keeping the parts separate now. This container has my brain, most of it anyway, the parts they could preserve." Angela dropped the lid, stepped back. This was insane, impossible. "I know how it sounds," the voice said. "I didn't believe it either when they told me. I was dying, brain tumor. They said they could save my consciousness, map it, preserve it. I signed the papers, but I didn't know they'd do this. Cut me up, put me in boxes, keep me aware while they transport me to a facility for further processing." Angela looked at the manifest, medical research. She'd assumed it was equipment, but the paperwork didn't actually specify, just codes, facility names, nothing about what was being transported. "You're saying you're a brain in a jar, like science fiction." "More like a brain in pieces across several containers, connected by wireless sensors being kept semi-conscious during transport because the mapping process requires an active neural signature. I'm experiencing this as a nightmare I can't wake up from. Cold, darkness, awareness without a body. Please, you have to help me." Angela wanted to close the trailer and drive away. Deliver the cargo, collect her payment, forget this ever happened, but his voice was so desperate, so human. "What do you want me to do?" "Don't deliver me. They're going to terminate the consciousness once they finish mapping. They told me preservation, but I've been hearing them talk when they check the monitors. Once they have the data, they'll shut me down. Please, just let me die fully. Turn off the refrigeration. Let the brain tissue decay. It'll be over in hours, better than what they're planning." "I can't kill someone. I'm already dead. My body is gone. This is just echoes. Neural patterns firing in preserved tissue. Let me go, please." Angela closed the container. Her hands were shaking. This was beyond anything in her job description, beyond anything in her comprehension. She should call someone, the company, the police, someone. But who would believe her? Who would help? She got back in the cab, sat there, made a decision. She turned off the reefer unit. The refrigeration died. Within minutes, the trailer temperature would rise. Whatever was in those containers, whether it was really a preserved consciousness or just sophisticated equipment, would degrade, spoil, become unusable. "Thank you," the voice said. "Thank you so much." "I'm going to lose my job over this," Angela said. "You're giving me peace. That's worth more than any job." Angela drove. She'd deliver the cargo as scheduled. By the time anyone opened the containers, everything would be ruined. She'd claim equipment failure. The reefer unit died and she didn't notice until too late. It happened sometimes. She'd probably get fired but not prosecuted. 20 minutes later, the voice spoke again. "It's getting warmer. I can feel it. Things are starting to fragment, breaking down. It doesn't hurt. It feels like falling asleep. I'm sorry this happened to you. Not your fault. You tried to help. Most people wouldn't have even listened. Thank you for that." The voice faded over the next hour, became slurred, confused, saying things that didn't make sense, calling for people who weren't there. Eventually, it stopped altogether, just silence from the trailer. Angela delivered the cargo in Boise at 6 a.m. The receiving facility signed for it without opening anything. She drove away and waited for the call. It came 3 hours later. The cargo was ruined, complete temperature failure, millions of dollars in damaged research, investigation pending. She was suspended immediately. 2 days later, she was fired. No severance, no recommendation. She de-violated protocol by not reporting the reefer failure immediately. The company threatened legal action to recover losses. Angela found work with a smaller outfit. Local roots, hourly pay, no benefits, she never told anyone what really happened that night. 6 months later, she got a letter. No return address. Inside was a newspaper clipping about a biotech facility in Boise being shut down for ethics violations. Something about non-consensual neurological research, human experimentation. The facility had been preserving dying patients, brain tissue, and claiming it was for consciousness transfer research. But really they were just keeping people aware in horrific conditions to study their neural degradation. 17 victims had been identified. One of them matched the voice she'd heard. The letter had a note. You saved him from months of torture. They were going to keep him conscious until the tissue completely degraded. You gave him mercy. Thank you. A friend. Angela folded the letter, put it in her desk drawer, tried to move on. But sometimes, late at night, she hears voices from her cargo. Different voices. Other people trapped in boxes, in containers, in machinery, begging for help, begging for release. She never turns off the reefer unit anymore. Never breaks the seal, never looks inside. She just drives, delivers, collects her pay, and tries not to listen to the whispers from the back. Story 7. The town THAT followed. Thomas Graves passed through the town of Millbrook 3 times in one night, and the third time people were waiting for him. Same town, same main street, same gas station, diner, church. But each time he drove through, more people were gathered on the sidewalks, standing still, watching his truck pass. By the third time, there were hundreds of them, all wearing clothes from different eras, all staring with empty eyes, all perfectly silent. Thomas had been hauling automotive parts from Detroit to Phoenix. Route planning took him through Iowa on Highway 34, a straight shot through rural farmland. At 11 p.m. on November 2, 2022, he'd driven through a small town. Population sign said 287. Nice enough place. Quiet. He'd considered stopping for coffee, but decided to push through. 20 miles later, he drove through the same town. Same buildings, same population sign, same layout. Thomas checked his GPS. According to the map, he'd been driving west continuously. Hadn't turned around, hadn't looped back, but there was Millbrook again, impossible as that was. He pulled over and recalibrated the GPS, checked his position. The GPS insisted he was 20 miles west of where he'd been. The town name was different on the GPS, Riverside, population 312. But the buildings were identical, same church with the pointed steeple, same gas station with the red roof, same diner with the neon sign. Thomas got out and walked up to the diner, looked through the window, empty, no staff, no customers, chairs were up on tables, but the lights were on and the open sign was lit. He tried the door, locked, knocked, no response. Back in his truck, he kept driving west. The GPS showed him leaving Riverside and continuing toward the next town. 30 miles of empty highway, farmland on both sides, dark and featureless. His headlights were the only light for miles. Then he saw the sign. MILLBROOK, population 287. Same town, third time. Thomas slammed the brakes. This was impossible. He'd driven 50 miles west total. He should be nowhere near the same location, but there was the church, the gas station, the diner. Identical, exactly the same. And this time people were in the street. Not in the street exactly, on the sidewalks in front of buildings, but there were dozens of them, standing motionless, all facing the road, all watching as his truck approached. Thomas rolled slowly through town. The people didn't move. Their eyes tracked his truck, heads turning to follow him, but their bodies stayed rigid. He counted maybe 70 people. Men, women, children. Their clothes were wrong. Some wore modern outfits, but others wore clothing from decades ago. A woman in a 1950s dress. A man in 1970s bell-bottoms. A child in Depression-era farmer's clothes. Thomas accelerated, got through town. The people didn't follow, just watched until he was out of sight. In his mirror, the town disappeared into darkness behind him. His CB crackled. "You're in a loop," a woman's voice said. "The town is looping. Every time you drive through, you're pulling it more into your reality. You need to stop driving west." "Who is this?" "Someone who escaped. Barely. Turn around. Go east. Get out of the loop before you're stuck in it." "I can't turn around. I have a delivery schedule." "Then you'll end up like the people you saw, standing in Millbrook forever, watching other drivers pass through, adding to the collection." Thomas gripped the wheel. This was insane. Towns didn't loop. Geography didn't work that way. But he'd driven through the same place 3 times and something was very wrong. He kept driving west. Maybe this was some kind of temporal anomaly. Maybe if he just kept going, he'd break through to normal space. The GPS showed him making progress. 40 miles west of Riverside now, approaching the town of Crawford. The sign appeared. MILLBROOK population 287. Fourth time, and now there were hundreds of people. They packed the sidewalks, filled the parking lots, stood in yards, all wearing clothes from different time periods, all staring at his truck, all perfectly motionless. Thomas stopped in the middle of the street, grabbed his phone, no signal, tried anyway, nothing. The people started walking, slowly, converging on his truck from all sides. Their movements were mechanical, synchronized. They didn't blink, didn't talk, just walked. Thomas threw the truck into reverse, backed up rapidly. The people kept coming. He shifted into drive and accelerated forward, aiming for the gap between buildings. Maybe he could go around, find another route. The people filled the gap. 20 bodies standing shoulder to shoulder, blocking the way. Thomas swerved, took a side street. The street curved back to Main Street. Same layout. No matter which direction he turned, he ended up back on Main Street in Millbrook. The people surrounded his truck. They pressed against it, faces against the windows, hands on the hood, all those empty eyes staring in at him. One man had no pupils, just white eyes. A woman's face was half-rotted, showing bone beneath decayed skin. A child's head was bent at an unnatural angle, neck clearly broken. "They died here," the CB voice said. "Or near here, car accidents, heart attacks, murder, whatever, something about this location, it collects the dead, traps them. And if you stay too long, it collects you too." Thomas laid on the horn. The people didn't react, didn't move. Their hands scraped at the doors, the windows, not violently, just persistently, like they were trying to reach him, trying to pull him out. He revved the engine. The truck lurched forward, bodies pressed against the grill. Thomas hesitated. These looked like people, dead people maybe, or ghosts, or whatever the hell they were, but they looked human. He couldn't just run them over. "They're not alive," the woman on the CB said. "Their echoes, impressions run through them." Thomas accelerated. The bodies didn't resist. His truck passed through them like smoke. They dissolved on contact with the grill, reformed in his mirrors behind him. He drove straight through the mass of figures, heading west out of town. The sign appeared again. MILLBROOK population 287. Fifth time, the town was even more crowded now. Thousands of people. They filled every space, packed together, all staring at him. And his truck was slowing down. Not mechanically, the engine was fine, but reality was becoming viscous. Like he was driving through syrup. Each movement took more effort. Time was stretching. His speedometer showed 50 miles per hour, but it felt like crawling. "You've been here too long," the CB voice said. "The town has marked you. You're becoming part of it." "How do I get out?" "I don't know. I escaped by crashing my truck. I died in the accident, but my consciousness didn't get trapped in Millbrook. It slipped past somehow. I've been on the CB ever since, trying to warn people. You're the 17th driver I've seen enter the loop. None of the others made it out." Thomas looked at the crowd. They were moving toward him again. Thousands of dead things wearing human shapes. He saw victims from every era, pioneers in covered wagons, flappers from the 20s, soldiers in World War II uniforms, businessmen in 80s suits. All dead, all trapped. "If I crash, I get out?" Thomas asked. "Maybe it worked for me, but I'm not alive anymore. I'm just a voice. A recording stuck in the CB frequencies. Is that really escaping?" Thomas made a decision. He aimed his truck at the church, the one landmark that appeared in every iteration of Millbrook. He accelerated. The truck was moving normally now, the viscous reality effect fading as he committed to action. The church grew larger in his windshield. The crowd of dead people moved to block him, but he drove through them. Smoke and shadow, they couldn't stop him. Impact, the truck's grill hit the church stairs. The building didn't crumble, it rippled, like a projection disrupted. The entire town wavered, pixelating, breaking apart. Thomas's truck was suddenly on empty highway. No town, no church, no crowd, just rural Iowa farmland under a night sky. His GPS showed him exactly where he should be, 60 miles west of his last confirmed position. He'd lost an hour somehow, but he was out. He pulled over, hands shaking, checked his mirrors, normal highway behind him, no town, no people. The CB crackled. "You made it, I don't know how, but you're out." "What was that place?" "I think it's where dead things go when they don't know they're dead. They keep doing what they were doing, living in a town that doesn't exist anymore, waiting for something, I don't know what." Thomas started driving again, kept going west, mad. His delivery in Phoenix, collected his pay, everything normal. But 3 months later, he was hauling through Iowa again. Different route. Highway 30, not 34, 50 miles north of where Millbrook had been. He saw the sign, MILLBROK population 287. The town was there, same layout, and thousands of people were standing in the streets, all facing the highway, all waiting for him to enter. Thomas drove past without slowing, didn't stop, didn't look back, just kept driving. The town disappeared behind him. But now every time he drives through Iowa, he sees the signs. Different highways, different locations, but always the same town, always the same population number, and each time there are more people waiting. He thinks one day he'll drive through and see himself in the crowd, standing with all the other dead things, waiting for the next driver, the next person to join the collection. He tries not to think about it, just drives, makes deliveries, stays out of Iowa when he can. But the signs keep appearing. In Nebraska now, South Dakota, Kansas, the town is spreading or following him. He doesn't know which is worse. And sometimes he sees people on normal highways wearing clothes from different eras, standing on the shoulder, watching trucks pass. He wonders if they're from Millbrook, if the town is leaking, if the dead are spreading out looking for new places to stand, new roads to haunt. He doesn't stop for hitchhikers anymore, doesn't stop at all if he can help it, just drives straight through no matter how tired he gets. Because he knows if he stops in the wrong place, he'll end up in that crowd, standing in Millbrook, waiting, forever. Story 8, The Shadow Load. Karen Vasquez's shadow fell wrong across the asphalt when she stopped at the truck stop in Rawlins, Wyoming. She noticed it immediately. The angle was off by maybe 15 degrees from where it should be given the overhead lights. Her shadow stretched north while everyone else's shadows pointed northeast. A small difference, but once Karen saw it, she couldn't unsee it. And when she walked toward the diner, her shadow moved independently for just a moment, lagging behind her body by a fraction of a second before snapping back into alignment. She'd been hauling electronics from San Francisco to Chicago. 2,000 miles, 3 days, standard route. Nothing unusual until she'd stopped for fuel in Rawlins at 1:40 a.m. on August 16, 2023. That's when her shadow started acting strange. That's when she realized she might have picked up something in Utah that wasn't listed on her manifest. The truck stop was nearly empty, 2 other trucks parked in the distance, gas station lights harsh and yellow against the darkness. Karen filled her tank, watching her shadow carefully. It was definitely wrong. When she moved right, it moved right. When she moved left, it moved left. But there was a delay, microscopic but present, like watching a video with slightly distanced audio. Inside the gas station, the fluorescent lights were bright. Multiple light sources. Her shadow should have been fragmented, split into several faint shadows overlapping. Instead, she had one dark, crisp shadow, singular, solid, and it was positioned as if there was only one light source directly above her, even though there were at least 20 lights in the ceiling grid. The cashier, teenage kid, name tag said Drew, didn't seem to notice anything wrong. Pump 3. Yeah, Karen paid with her card, kept glancing at her shadow. It was staying still while she moved, just for split seconds but definitely staying still, like it needed time to catch up. You okay, ma'am? Drew asked. My shadow, do you see anything weird about it? Drew looked at the floor, at Karen's shadow, shrugged. Looks normal to me. The angle's wrong. I don't know, lights are kinda weird in here, makes shadows funky sometimes. He handed her the receipt. Have a safe trip. Karen walked out, stopped under one of the parking lot lights. Her shadow fell clearly on the concrete. She waved her arms. Her shadow waved back, but the motion was delayed. Like her shadow was a separate entity mimicking her, trying to stay synchronized but failing slightly. She walked to her truck. Her shadow followed. But when she climbed into the cab, she looked down through the driver's window. Her shadow was still standing on the ground, just standing there, empty silhouette of a person, perfectly dark, not moving. Karen's breath caught. She stared at it. 5 seconds, 10. The shadow finally moved, flowing up the side of the truck and disappearing. When she looked at her hand in the cab's dome light, her shadow was back. Normal, attached. What the hell? She whispered. She checked her cargo, opened the trailer. 30 pallets of consumer electronics, laptops, tablets, phones, all sealed, all accounted for, nothing unusual. She'd loaded this cargo in San Francisco 2 days ago, driven through Nevada, through Utah into Wyoming. When did the shadow start acting wrong? She tried to remember. Had she noticed it in Utah, at the rest stop where she'd parked for a few hours of sleep? She'd gotten out of the truck around dawn, walked around to stretch. Had her shadow been normal then? She couldn't remember, hadn't been paying attention. Karen closed the trailer and got back in the cab, started the engine. Her shadow from the dome light looked normal now. Maybe she was just exhausted. 2,000 miles of driving, not enough sleep, too much coffee. Shadows didn't act independently. That was impossible. She drove east on I-80. The road stretched ahead, empty at this hour. Her headlights carved through darkness. Everything felt normal. She was fine. Then she saw it in her passenger mirror. Her shadow was sitting in the passenger seat, not her reflection, her shadow. A solid black silhouette shaped like her, sitting with perfect posture, hands in lap, facing forward. There was no light source that should cast a shadow into the passenger seat. The only light was from the dashboard, and it was illuminating her, not creating shadows. Karen jerked the wheel. The truck swerved. She corrected, heart pounding, looked at the passenger seat. Empty, just empty seat. She checked the mirror again, still empty. You're losing it, she told herself. You need sleep. But she couldn't stop now. Delivery schedule was tight. She had to be in Chicago by tomorrow evening. That meant driving straight through. Maybe one more stop for fuel, no time for sleep. Her CB radio crackled, static. Then a voice, her voice, speaking from the speaker. You should look in the trailer again. Karen grabbed the radio. Who is this? Check the trailer, count the pallets. I just checked, 30 pallets all there. Count again. Karen pulled over, grabbed her flashlight, unlocked the trailer, shined the light inside, counted the pallets. 31. She counted again, definitely 31. There was an extra pallet positioned in the middle of the load where she'd have trouble noticing it. It was wrapped in black plastic, not the standard clear shrink wrap. The pallet was unmarked. No shipping label, no barcode. Karen approached it carefully. The black plastic was completely opaque. She couldn't see what was inside. She touched it. The plastic was cold, colder than the ambient temperature, cold enough that frost was forming where her fingers made contact. What is this? She said aloud. How did this get here? The CB crackled from the cab. Her voice. You picked it up in Utah, don't you remember? The rest area, you parked next to a cargo truck. Their trailer was open. You saw something inside. It called to you. Karen tried to remember. Utah rest area. She deparked next to another truck. Had she gotten out? Had she seen something? The memory was fuzzy, fragmented, like trying to remember a dream. She'd been walking toward the other truck. The trailer had been open. There'd been something inside, something dark, something that had spoken to her. You agreed to carry it, the voice on the CB said. You don't remember agreeing, but you did. It got inside your truck, inside your cargo, and now it's inside your shadow. That's not possible. Look at your shadow, Karen. Karen pointed her flashlight at the floor of the trailer. Her shadow was cast behind her by the flashlight beam, but the shadow was wrong. It wasn't her shape. It was taller, thinner, with elongated limbs and a head that was slightly too large. As she watched, the shadow moved independently, waved at her. Her arm was still. The shadow was waving. Karen screamed and dropped the flashlight. It rolled across the trailer floor, beam spinning. In the rotating light, she saw her shadow multiplying. 2 shadows, 3, 5, all different shapes, all moving independently, reaching toward her with long, spindly shadow arms. She ran, jumped out of the trailer, slammed the doors shut, locked them. Her hands were shaking so badly she could barely turn the key. The CB crackled. You can't lock it in. It's not in the trailer anymore. It's in your shadow. You're carrying it with you. Karen looked down. Her shadow under the truck's parking lights was massive, stretched out maybe 20 feet behind her, way too long for the angle of the light, and it was moving, writhing, like something was trapped inside it trying to get out. She climbed in the cab, started the engine, had to get to Chicago, had to deliver the cargo. Then she could deal with this, figure out what was happening. She drove 60 miles per hour, 70, 80, the highway blurred. She kept her eyes forward, didn't look at mirrors, didn't look at her shadow, just drove. But she could feel it. Whatever was in her shadow was getting stronger, heavier, like carrying extra weight. Her movements felt sluggish. When she shifted gears, there was resistance. When she turned the wheel, it was harder than it should be. The voice on the CB, it's pulling you into the shadow. You're becoming part of it. Soon you'll be the shadow and it will be you. Then it can drive. It can deliver itself to wherever it wants to go. How do I stop it? Light, you need light. Constant, bright light. No shadows. If you can stay in light for long enough, it'll weaken, maybe release you. Karen checked her GPS. Next major town was Laramie, 30 miles ahead. She could find somewhere with lights. Bright lights. Parking lots, gas stations, anywhere that would keep her fully illuminated. But it was still dark. Dawn was hours away, 30 miles of dark highway before she reached civilization. Could she make it? Her shadow was visible in the headlights reflecting off the road signs. Each sign she passed showed her shadow cast across it. The shadow was definitely wrong now, unmistakably wrong. It looked less like her and more like something else. Something with too many joints in its limbs. Something with fingers that were too long and too numerous. 20 miles to Laramie. Karen pressed the accelerator. The truck's speedometer climbed past 90. The engine screamed. She wasn't supposed to drive this fast with a full load, but she didn't care. She had to reach light. Her shadow in the driver's window was moving wrong, disconnected completely now. It wasn't matching her movements at all. It was doing its own thing, turning to look at her. Opening its mouth wide, impossibly wide. She could see the shadow mouth in the window, see the darkness inside it. 10 miles, the dashboard lights flickered. Karen slapped the panel. The lights stabilized. She needed those lights. Without them, she'd be in complete darkness. The shadow reached out from the window. Not just a flat silhouette anymore, it had dimension now. Depth. It was becoming three-dimensional. A hand made of living shadow extended toward her face. Fingers brushed her cheek. They felt cold, freezing cold, wet somehow. 5 miles, Karen could see lights ahead. Laramie, civilization, she just had to make it. The shadow hand grabbed her steering wheel, pulled it left. The truck swerved across lanes. Karen fought it, but the shadow was strong, impossibly strong. The truck was heading off the road toward the median. Karen grabbed the hand. Her fingers passed through it. No substance, just cold. She couldn't grip it, couldn't fight it. The truck left the road, bounced through grass. Karen slammed the brakes. The truck skidded, jackknifed, tipped. The world rotated. She was thrown against the door. Glass shattered. Metal screamed. Then stillness. The truck was on its side. Karen was hanging from the seatbelt. Everything hurt. Blood on her face from somewhere. She was alive, though, still alive. Dawn was breaking. Light coming over the horizon. Beautiful golden light. It streamed through the broken windshield. Karen felt warmth, real warmth. The cold from the shadow was fading. She looked around, no shadow. In the morning light, her shadow was normal, small, positioned correctly, no movement, no independence. But when she climbed out of the wrecked truck, when she stood on the highway and looked at the trailer that had split open in the crash, she saw it. The 31st pallet, the one wrapped in black plastic, it had burst open, and inside was nothing, just darkness, pure, solid darkness, like a void had been packaged and shipped. The darkness was flowing out, spreading across the ground like liquid, and it was forming shapes, human shapes, shadow people, dozens of them, maybe hundreds, all standing in the morning light, all facing Karen. They dissipated, the sunlight destroyed them, they melted into nothing. Within minutes they were gone, the darkness evaporated, the pallet was empty, just the wrapping remained. Karen sat on the highway. Police would arrive eventually. Paramedics. Her company would want explanations for the crash. She'd lose her job, maybe face charges for reckless driving. But she was alive, and the shadow was gone. Whatever she'd been carrying, it was gone now. Released into the light, destroyed, she hoped. 3 months later, she was driving for a different company. Local routes, daytime only. She refused night routes, refused any cargo she couldn't personally verify. And she never looked at her shadow, ever, because sometimes when the light hit just right, she swore it still moved wrong, just a little, just enough to remind her that some things can't be killed, only released, only set free, to find someone else, some other driver, some other shadow to hide in. And the cycle continues. Story 9, The Empty Highway. 53 miles of I-90 in South Dakota went missing while Raymond Porter was driving it, and when he finally found an exit, 7 hours had passed even though his fuel gauge said he'd only driven 30 miles. The GPS insisted he'd been traveling at normal speed. The clock insisted 7 hours had elapsed. His body agreed with the clock. He was exhausted, hungry, needed to use a bathroom desk. Irately, but the math didn't work, the distance didn't work, and when he looked at the road behind him, it just ended, like it had been erased. Raymond had been hauling agricultural equipment from Minneapolis to Rapid City. Standard run. He'd done it maybe 40 times over his 15-year career. Left Minneapolis at 8 a.m. on July 23, 2023. Expected arrival in Rapid City, 6 p.m. Simple, easy, boring. At 10:30 a.m., he'd been passing through eastern South Dakota on I-90. Nothing unusual, light traffic, clear weather. Cornfields stretching to the horizon on both sides. He'd passed mile marker 412, checked his mirrors, adjusted his grip on the wheel. When he looked forward again, the other vehicles were gone, all of them. The highway ahead was empty, not just light traffic, completely empty. No cars, no trucks, nothing. Raymond checked his mirrors, empty behind him too. Every vehicle that had been on the road had vanished. Huh, he muttered. Maybe they'd all taken an exit. He didn't remember passing one, but maybe he'd been distracted. He kept driving. The fields on either side looked strange. The corn was too uniform, perfectly even rows stretching infinitely. No variations, no imperfections, like a computer-generated landscape. Mile marker 413, 414, 415. The markers were appearing faster than they should. Raymond was driving maybe 60 miles per hour, but the markers were appearing every 30 seconds or so. That was wrong. Mile markers were a mile apart. At 60 miles per hour, they should appear every minute. Raymond checked his speedometer. 62. Normal, but the markers kept appearing too fast. 416, 417, 418. The clock on his dashboard read 10:38 a.m., 8 minutes since the traffic vanished. Raymond tried his CB radio. Static, pure, uninterrupted static on every channel. He tried his phone, no signal. The screen showed the time, 10:38 a.m. GPS showed his position, I-90 westbound, approaching mile marker 419. The markers were accelerating, appearing every 15 seconds now. The landscape wasn't changing, same flat fields, same empty highway, same pale blue sky, but the markers proved he was covering distance. Miles of distance, much faster than should be possible. Raymond's heart was pounding. This wasn't normal. This was deeply wrong. He considered pulling over, but something told him that would be a mistake. Some instinct said keep moving. Seconds between markers now. Raymond was driving 60 miles per hour but covering miles every few seconds. His fuel gauge was barely moving. Time was moving. The dashboard clock was ticking forward normally. But distance and speed had disconnected from reality. The cornfields began to change. They started to blur. The perfect rows smeared together into a solid green mass on either side of the road. The highway remained crisp and clear, but everything beyond it was becoming indistinct, abstract. The markers were continuous now. He'd see 427, then immediately 428, then 429. He was traveling at impossible speed, or space was compressing, or something was broken in reality. Raymond tried to slow down, took his foot off the accelerator. The truck didn't slow. It maintained the same speed. He pressed the brake. Nothing happened. The truck kept rolling forward at 60 miles per hour, disconnected from his controls. The clock read 11:15 a.m., 45 minutes since this started. Raymond checked his GPS. It showed him at mile marker 465, but he'd been at 412 when things went wrong. That was 53 miles. At 60 miles per hour, he should have covered about 45 miles in 45 minutes. The math worked, except he'd seen hundreds of mile markers pass, hundreds of miles, and the fuel gauge said he'd barely used any fuel. The fields disappeared. The highway now cut through nothing. Blank gray void on either side. No landscape, no horizon, just road and emptiness. The road itself was starting to look wrong, too smooth, too perfect, more like a 3D render than actual asphalt. Raymond's hands were welded to the wheel. He physically couldn't let go. His fingers wouldn't respond. He tried to scream. No sound came out. His voice was gone. He could breathe, but he couldn't vocalize. The mile markers stopped. The last one he saw was 543, then no more markers, just endless highway through the void. The dashboard clock was still ticking. 11:45 a.m., 1 hour 15 minutes. His stomach was growling, his bladder was aching, he was thirsty, his body was experiencing time normally. But the world outside was broken. Then he saw another vehicle, far ahead, tiny in the distance. Another truck. Raymond felt a surge of relief. He wasn't alone, someone else was here. He accelerated toward it, or tried to. His truck was still moving at exactly 60 miles per hour, no faster, no slower, no matter what he did with the pedals. But he was catching up to the other truck. It was getting larger, closer, he see. Would see it was a semi, similar to his, blue paint, tall stack exhausts. As he got closer, he saw the license plate. Minnesota plates, same number as his plates, same exact truck as his. He was approaching himself. Raymond's mind reeled. That wasn't possible. He looked at his mirrors, nothing behind him. He looked forward. The other truck was right there, maybe 50 yards ahead. He caught up to it, pulled alongside. The other driver was him, exactly him, same face, same flannel shirt, same shocked expression. The other Raymond was looking at him with the same horror he felt. Then the other truck vanished, just blinked out of existence. Raymond was alone again on the highway through the void. 1 p.m., the clock kept ticking, 2 hours and 30 minutes since this started. Raymond was desperately thirsty now, starving. His bladder was agony, but he couldn't stop, couldn't slow, could only drive forward through nothing. More trucks appeared, dozens of them, all identical to his, all with drivers that looked like him. They surrounded him, driving in perfect formation. An army of Raymond porters in an army of identical trucks, all trapped on the same impossible highway. Then they all vanished except one, the truck directly ahead. It slowed. Raymond couldn't slow, so he rear-ended it, but there was no impact. His truck passed through the other truck like it was a hologram. He emerged from the other side, looked in his mirror. No truck behind him, nothing. 3 p.m., 5 hours. Raymond's thoughts were becoming fragmented. The highway seemed to stretch into infinity. The void pressed in from all sides. He was so tired, so thirsty. His body was screaming at him to stop, to rest, to drink water. But he couldn't stop. He was trapped in a truck that wouldn't respond to controls, on a highway that went nowhere, in time that kept passing while distance became meaningless. 4 p.m., 6 hours. Raymond was barely conscious. His vision was blurring. Was this hell? Had he died? Was this some kind of punishment? He tried to remember if he'd done something to deserve this. He'd been a decent person, hadn't he? Decent husband, decent father, decent driver. What had he done to end up here? 4:30 p.m. 6.5 hours, an exit appeared. A normal exit ramp with a sign, exit 465. The void was gone, the fields were back. Normal South Dakota landscape, normal sky, normal everything. Raymond's truck responded to controls again. He could turn the wheel. He took the exit, rolled down the ramp, found himself at a truck stop, normal truck stop, other vehicles, people walking around, civilization. He pulled into a parking space and collapsed against the wheel. Shaking, crying, he checked the clock, 4:33 p.m. He'd left Minneapolis at 8 a.m. It was now 4:33 p.m. That was 8.5 hours, but the GPS showed he was at mile marker 465 on I-90. Minneapolis to mile marker 465 was about 450 miles. That should take maybe 7 hours. The timing almost worked. But he'd experienced 7 hours of nightmare, 7 hours of impossible highway, and he'd only covered the distance he should have covered in 6 hours of normal driving. Raymond climbed out. His legs were weak. He stumbled into the truck stop, used the bathroom, drank water, ate junk food from the convenience store, sat in a booth and tried to process what had happened. His phone had signal again. He checked the news, nothing unusual. July 23, 2023, 4:40 p.m., everything normal. He asked other drivers if they'd experienced anything strange. They looked at him like he was crazy. No one had seen anything unusual. Traffic had been normal all day. Raymond got back in his truck and drove the remaining distance to Rapid City. Delivered his cargo, everything normal. The manifest was correct. Nothing was damaged. He'd arrived only an hour late, not 7 hours late, just 1 hour, reasonable delay for a fuel stop and rest. But he'd lived through 7 hours. His body had experienced 7 hours. The hunger, the thirst, the exhaustion, it had all been real. 3 days later, he was driving back to Minneapolis. Same route, I-90 East. He was approaching mile marker 465, the exit where he'd escaped. As he passed it, he looked in his mirror. The highway behind him ended, just stopped, like a road in a video game that hadn't finished loading. He could see where the asphalt just ceased to exist. Beyond it was gray void. Raymond accelerated, didn't look back, drove straight to Minneapolis, quit his job the next day, couldn't explain why, just said it was time for a career change. His wife thought he was having a breakdown. Maybe he was. He never drove I-90 in South Dakota again. Never drove long haul again, period. Got a local delivery job. Home every night. Short routes. Nothing longer than 50 miles. But sometimes he sees it. The gray void at the edges of his vision. The impossible highway extending through nothing. He'll be driving a normal route, and for just a moment the world will flicker. The other vehicles will vanish. The road will look too perfect. And he'll remember those 7 hours. Remember the feeling of being trapped in motion, unable to stop, unable to escape. He drives faster when that happens. Focuses on the road, keeps moving. Because he knows if he stops, if he lets the void catch him, he might end up back on that highway. The one that doesn't end. The one where time passes but distance doesn't matter. The one where Raymond Porter drives forever, watching mile markers that might as well be meaningless in a truck he can't control, through a void that wants to keep him forever. And somewhere in South Dakota, maybe that highway still exists. Maybe other drivers find it. Maybe they're still there, driving through nothing, wondering when it'll end, not knowing it never will. Story 10, The Delivery to Nowhere. The address on the manifest was 1447 Ashwood Lane, Millerton, Montana, but Lucy Chen had driven through Millerton twice now and the street didn't exist. And when she called the dispatcher to confirm, the dispatcher insisted Lucy had already delivered the cargo 4 hours ago and was currently heading back to base. Lucy was still in Millerton. She hadn't delivered anything. She was looking at the sealed trailer right now. But according to everyone else, the delivery was complete and Lucy was on her way home. Lucy had picked up the cargo in Seattle 3 days ago. Electronics. Standard shipment. Destination was Millerton, Montana, small town she'd never heard of, population maybe 800. The delivery window was tight, between 8 a.m. and noon on September 12, 2023. She arrived at 9:15. Plenty of time. Except the address didn't exist. She'd driven every street in Millerton. The town was small enough to map completely in 30 minutes. There was no Ashwood Lane. There was Ashwood Street, but it only went to 1200. Ashwood Drive existed, but it was in a residential area and had maybe 20 houses total. No 1447 anywhere. Lucy called dispatch. "Hey, I'm in Millerton, but I can't find the delivery address. Can you confirm 1447 Ashwood Lane?" "Lucy," the dispatcher sounded confused. "Why are you calling? You already completed that delivery." "No, I'm still in Millerton. I haven't delivered anything yet." "My system shows you delivered at 8:47 a.m. You signed off on the manifest and you're currently en route back to Seattle. Your GPS has you on Highway 2 westbound." Lucy looked at her GPS. It showed her parked in Millerton. "I'm not on Highway 2. I'm parked on Main Street in Millerton, and I still have the cargo." "That's hold on," sounds of typing. "Okay, that's strange. Your truck's GPS shows you on Highway 2, but your phone's location shows Millerton. Are you sure you didn't deliver?" "I'm looking at the sealed trailer right now. The cargo is still here." "But the delivery confirmation came through. Digital signature, timestamp, everything. Someone accepted the cargo at 8:47 a.m. at 1447 Ashwood Lane." "Who signed for it?" "The signature just says received. No name, but the customer number matches the manifest." Lucy got out of her truck and walked to the trailer. Checked the seal, still intact. Same number as when she'd loaded it in Seattle. No one had opened this trailer. "The seal is intact," Lucy said into her phone. "No one has been in here." "Then how did we get a delivery confirmation? This doesn't make sense." "Can you give me a contact number for the customer? Maybe they can direct me to the right location." "Let me check," more typing. "The number on file is The number is disconnected, has been for 3 years according to our records." "So who ordered this shipment?" "I don't know. The order came through the automated system. Payment was processed. Everything looked normal. But now that I'm really looking at it, there are flags all over this. The customer account was created the same day as the order. Single shipment. No history. The payment came from an untraceable source." Lucy felt cold despite the warm September morning. "What am I carrying?" "According to the manifest, electronics, computer equipment." "I want to verify that. I'm opening the trailer." "Lucy, if the seal is intact, you're not authorized to." Lucy hung up. She was opening the trailer whether dispatch approved or not. Something was deeply wrong here. She unlocked the padlock, broke the seal, opened the doors. The trailer was empty. Completely empty. No pallets, no cargo, nothing. But the weight sensors on her truck said she was carrying 18,000 pounds. She could feel the weight. The suspension was compressed. When she'd driven here, she'd felt the cargo shifting on turns. But the trailer was empty. Lucy climbed inside, walked to the front wall. The trailer was definitely empty, bare metal floor, nothing. She stamped on the floor, solid. She checked the walls, normal trailer walls. Nothing hidden, nothing unusual. But she was carrying weight, 18,000 pounds of something, something invisible. Her phone rang. "Dispatch," she answered. "Lucy, you need to come back to Seattle immediately. Don't deliver the cargo. Just turn around and come back right now." "The trailer is empty." "What?" "I opened it. There's nothing inside. But I'm definitely carrying something because the weight is real." "Jesus, okay. Listen to me carefully. Do not go to that address. Do not ask anyone in Millerton about that address. Just close the trailer, seal it, and drive back here as fast as you can." "What is this? What am I carrying?" "I don't know, but we've had 4 other drivers report similar shipments over the past 6 months, addresses that don't exist, cargo that's there and not there. 3 of those drivers completed their deliveries. We never heard from them again. They're missing. The 4th driver refused to deliver and came back. She's not right anymore. Something happened to her. She doesn't remember the delivery, doesn't remember anything from that week, just blank spaces in her memory." Lucy's hands were shaking. "I need to know what I'm carrying." We don't know, that's the problem. These shipments keep coming through the system. We can't trace where they originate. We can't figure out who's ordering them. And anyone who delivers them disappears. Lucy closed the trailer, locked it. The weight was still there, 18,000 pounds of nothing. She got back in her cab, started the engine. Time to get out of Millerton, time to head back to Seattle and let someone else figure this out. She drove to the edge of town, turned onto the highway heading west. The road stretched ahead, normal Montana landscape. She accelerated to highway speed, 65, 70. A sign appeared ahead. Millerton city limits, welcome to Millerton population, 847. She was entering Millerton, but she just left. She was driving away from town, west away from Millerton, but the sign said she was entering. Lucy checked her mirrors. Behind her, Millerton was visible, the town she'd just left. Ahead, another Millerton, identical, same buildings, same street layout. She drove through the second Millerton, reached the western edge, took the highway west again. The sign appeared, Millerton city limits. No, Lucy whispered. She was looping, the town was looping. No matter which direction she drove, she ended up back in Millerton. She tried different exits, different roads, north, south, east, west. Every road led back to Millerton. Every highway looped back to Main Street. Her phone had no signal. GPS was frozen, showing her parked on Main Street even though she was driving. The clock was moving, time was passing, but she couldn't leave town. She pulled over, sat there trying to think. She was trapped in Millerton. The cargo was still in her trailer, invisible but present. And somewhere in this town was an address that didn't exist, 1447 Ashwood Lane. Maybe she needed to deliver the cargo. Maybe that was the only way out. Lucy drove through town slowly, looked at every street sign, Ashwood Street, Ashwood Drive, no Ashwood Lane. She circled 3 more times, nothing. Then she saw it, a sign she hadn't noticed before, Ashwood Lane. It was in an area she'd driven through 4 times already, but now the sign was there, clear as day. Lucy turned onto Ashwood Lane. The street was normal at first. Houses, mailboxes, driveways, number 1401, 1415, 1429. The houses stopped. The street continued into an empty field, dirt road leading into grass. Lucy kept driving. The road was barely visible now, just tire tracks through weeds. 1440, 1445. The numbers appeared on small wooden stakes planted in the ground. No houses, just empty field. The number was on a stake next to a hole in the ground. Not a basement, not a structure, just a hole, maybe 10 feet in diameter, dark, deep. Lucy couldn't see the bottom. She pulled her truck up to it. This was the address. This hole was where she was supposed to deliver 18,000 pounds of invisible cargo. Her phone rang. She jumped, checked the screen. Unknown number, she answered. You found it, male voice, calm, matter of fact. Who is this? The recipient. Thank you for the delivery. Please unload the cargo into the designated area. There's just a hole here, and the cargo isn't real. There's nothing in my trailer. The cargo is very real. You've been carrying it across 3 states, and this is where it needs to be delivered. Please unload it. How do I unload something I can't see? Just open the trailer doors, back up to the hole. The cargo will unload itself. Lucy wanted to refuse, wanted to drive away, but she'd tried that. She was trapped in Millerton. The only way out might be to complete this delivery. She backed her trailer up to the hole, opened the doors. The trailer was still empty. She waited. The truck lurched the way. T was shifting. Something was moving in the trailer. She could hear it, heavy scraping sounds like massive objects being dragged across metal. But she couldn't see anything. The suspension rose as the weight decreased. 18,000 pounds unloading. Lucy watched in her mirrors. Nothing was coming out of the trailer, but the weight was gone. The truck felt lighter. The suspension was fully extended now. Then she saw them, shapes emerging from the hole, not climbing out, rising, floating upward. Dozens of translucent figures, humanoid but wrong, elongated limbs, too many joints, faces with features that shifted and blurred. They rose from the hole like ghosts, like smoke given form. They surrounded the truck. Lucy's breath fogged in the cab, the temperature had dropped. She could see her hands shaking on the wheel. The figures pressed against the windows, faces distorting against the glass. They weren't solid, but they weren't nothing either. They were there. One of them passed through the door, materialized inside the cab with Lucy. It leaned close. She could smell it, rot and ozone. It whispered in a language she didn't understand. The words hurt to hear, like nails on chalkboard translated into speech. Then they were gone, all of them, sinking back into the hole, disappearing. The temperature rose, the windows cleared, Lucy was alone. Her phone chimed, delivery confirmation. The automated system had registered the delivery. 1447 Ashwood Lane, received at 11:23 a.m., payment confirmed. The road ahead was clear, she was on Highway 2 westbound. Millerton was behind her, normal highway, normal world, she was out of the loop. Lucy drove straight back to Seattle, didn't stop, arrived 15 hours later, went to the dispatch office. The dispatcher looked at her strangely. "Lucy, what are you doing here? You just left 4 hours ago." "I've been gone 3 days." "No, you delivered in Millerton this morning. You just left here at noon to head home." Lucy checked her phone. The date was September 12th, but she'd spent 3 days driving to Millerton. She'd left Seattle on September 9th, but her phone said September 12th. The dispatch log said she'd left Seattle this morning. 3 days had collapsed into one morning, or she'd lived the same day 3 times, or time had broken, she didn't know. She quit the next day, couldn't explain why, just turned in her keys and walked away. Her company didn't understand. She'd been a model employee for 8 years, but she couldn't drive anymore, couldn't risk another delivery like that, couldn't risk finding another address that didn't exist, couldn't risk opening another trailer full of invisible cargo. 6 months later, she was working retail. Normal job, normal hours, no more trucking, no more long hauls, no more strange deliveries. But sometimes she gets emails, shipping notifications, packages addressed to her. The return address is always 1447 Ashwood Lane, Millerton, Montana. The packages never arrive. The tracking always shows delivered, but nothing ever shows up at her door. And she's grateful for that, because she knows what's in those packages. She knows what she unloaded into that hole, and she knows it remembers her, knows her address, knows where to find her. She just hopes it stays in Millerton, stays in that hole, stays delivered. Because if it ever shows up at her door, if she ever opens a package from 1447 Ashwood Lane, she knows she'll have to deliver it somewhere else. And the cycle will start again. The invisible cargo, the impossible address, the loop that never ends. So she doesn't answer the door anymore, doesn't accept packages, doesn't drive, just works her retail job and tries to forget she ever drove trucks, ever delivered anything, ever found that hole in Montana. But the emails keep coming, the notifications keep arriving, the cargo is still out there, still being shipped, still looking for drivers to deliver it. And somewhere in Montana, 1447 Ashwood Lane is waiting for the next trucker to find it, the next driver to complete the delivery, the next person to unload 18,000 pounds of nothing into a hole that leads to somewhere that shouldn't exist. The hole is always hungry, the cargo is always moving, and the deliveries never stop.